Hey everyone, welcome to the introduction into InDesign. This is how the program looks like when you first start it. And the main differences between InDesign and Photoshop is that on Photoshop you're going to basically be focusing more on your graphics, editing pictures, making graphics, and whatnot. And then in InDesign it's more text focused. So, in the graphic design world, you're going to be ideally using these two programs hand in hand. So making your graphics onto Photoshop and then importing it into InDesign where you can add any text. This is how it looks like when you first start it up. So if you click onto New Document, these are the dimensions that you can play around with. And by default, it is what a regular printing paper is, which is 8 by 11.5 or 8.5 by 11. I always forget. It's one of those things. But yeah. So InDesign is really geared towards printing and finalizing stuff like that. So press OK. And this is what a regular size paper would look like. And they already have your margins for you. And so for this lesson, it's going to be fairly simple. We're just focusing on shapes and frame shape tools and stroke. So it's a pretty painless lesson. The next one will be more tool heavy. You'll figure out all the tools that you're going to be using a lot. But this is the main toolbar, and if you go up top here, there are the paragraph tools and character tools, which are more focused on text stuff that we're not really going to get into today. So for your lesson, you're basically just supposed to import images and put a background color and also put a frame inside of an image. So I'll explain what that means. First things first, I'm going to import some images. So just like Photoshop, you go to File and Place. Let's see. I'll pick some pictures related to the project that I did. So, I can use this one. And it'll look like this, and you just click anywhere. It's super big. And usually when you put in pictures onto InDesign, it looks really distorted, but when you export it, it looks a lot clearer. I don't really know how to fix that in InDesign, but trust me, it doesn't look this bad. When you have an image that's super big, just like in Photoshop, you're gonna click on the end of this, on the edge of the picture. Instead of just holding down Shift, you're gonna hold down Control and Shift. So it keeps the proportions. So there we go. Let's keep it like that. And another really powerful thing about InDesign is that on top of like being very text focused, it's also keeps you on point with your alignment. So if you see that if I hold this down, you see that red line in the middle? That means it's directly in the center. And if I put it down even more, it's another red line going horizontally and vertically. So this is in the very center of the page, which is pretty cool. We're just going to keep it at the top here, next to the margin though, because I'm going to put in more pictures. Another way that you can insert pictures is simply by dragging and dropping. So let's use this one. And we're going to click again. And we'll make it smaller. And I'll just put it here. Actually, we can make them. Oh, and also another useful thing about these rulers that show up is, what if we want these pictures to be like the same size? I could hold down Control and Shift and then do that until you see this green line shows up. Or for some reason it's being weird. There we go. So it'll tell you when it's aligned. There, so there's that green line. And then we can just shrink it down again until it hits the other green line. Other green line. Other green line. I'm sorry, I don't know why this isn't working. There we go. There we go. Now they're perfectly the same. And we can take that and make sure that they're both in the center. So they're directly in the center of the page now. Um, this right here is like different layout. So this is the normal and this is the preview. So this is how it's going to look like when it's printed. Yeah. So the way that you can use stroke is by making sure you're on the image. You click on it, and then this up here is the stroke. We can have it as black. And then this is the fill, but because this is a picture, it has no fill. If it was a text or a shape, then it would have a fill because it is something to fill up the space. And then you can edit the amount of stroke right here. And essentially, this is the same thing as like when you bold text. This is another place where you can edit the stroke. So over here or over here. But thinking of text, stroke is basically boldness, and in InDesign you can edit how bold you want something. So I'll keep it at 8, so it looks like a frame, and then you can mess with different stroke styles. So over here it could be like 2 lines. It could be dashed lines. You see, because I wasn't selected, even though I changed this didn't change. So we go back, make sure it's selected, and then do it. So that's how it would look like, dashed. Some of these strokes look kind of corny, but it'll come in handy at sometimes. And again, I can do the same thing to this one. Make the weight bigger. Let's make it 8 so it's all the same. And then maybe 2 thin lines instead. I don't like that, actually. Whatever. Okay. So this is one way to import and style images in InDesign. Another thing that we can do is, let's make these smaller so we have room for our other pictures. And maybe we'll take it to the top of it. So if you take this frame shape tool and right click on it, you can use a rectangle shape tool, an ellipse shape tool, or a polygon shape. And I'm going to use the ellipse for now. So we have this. And you can't see it because there's no fill and there is no stroke on it. But we want to fill it with an image, and we can make the stroke blue. Another way to, because by default it only has these colors, and if you want more colors, you just double click right here and you can change it up. But yeah, let's make it about like 4 point stroke. And then what you can do is actually, I believe you just drag it. So let's go into here and make sure, oops, cancel. You're on the right tool, which is right there. Click, and we're gonna drag an image into our frame shape tool. So there we go. And as you can see, there's like, you can't see the whole image. which sucks. So, these are two different selection tools that are going to come in very handy in InDesign. This might be one of the most confusing things, but this is like the hardest part, I would say. This is the selection tool, which lets you move whatever image layer that you have, right? And then, oh, you see how that just turned brown? That is the direct selection tool. So if you take the direct selection tool, you can actually move the image within that frame so that you can you get the part of the image that you actually want. And you can also shrink down the image if you wanted a more inclusive kind of picture. So there we go. That looks better, right? So that's one way of doing the frame shape tool, and then you can also mess around with the strokes. So keep it dotted maybe. That looks kind of weird, but it's a way to do it. um, yeah, so that's one way to do the frame shape tool. It's the same process if you want to use a polygon or a rectangle. And the only way, because InDesign is so text heavy, it actually has no way that you can use a paint bucket or a brush tool or anything like that. And you only are limited to three shapes. So you can tell that this was clearly not made for any graphic work. It's basically all text. So the way that you add a background color is I usually go into the rectangle tool, make sure you're on rectangle, and then you will make sure you are getting the direct dimensions, and you'll know because of these green lines on the side that they tell you basically that you're on alignment with the rest of the page. So again, this is, I'm going to take the stroke off that, and it has no fill, but because we want it to have a color, we just double click and maybe something like a blue would be nice. Press OK. And now you can't see all of the images. Oh no. But it's cool because InDesign also uses layers. So if you go onto this right here, layer tool, you take the rectangle and then you just drag it down like you would do in Photoshop. Um, so yeah, that's the assignment for today or last week since I was lagging. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna get more into what the other tools do and what you can do with the text tools in our next lesson, which will be a little bit longer and a lot of talking, and I'm sorry in advance, but it will all be useful for you, trust me. Um, yeah, have fun. And oh, lastly, this is how you export. Go to File, Adobe PDF presets, and high quality print. So this is, it converts it into a PDF for you. So I'll just save it to my desktop. And uh, InDesign example. Save it, export it, and you're good. Let's find it. On my desktop is kind of crazy right now, but where is it? InDesign, InDesign. I'll just look for it here. And there you go. That's how it looks like. It doesn't look that great right now, but this is just so you guys know how to do the basics. Enjoy. If you have any questions, email me. Thank you.